Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! For context, I'm a 27 female and I am biracial, half white, half Hispanic, English, Irish and Scottish on my father's side, Mexican and Spanish on my mother's side, so I'm light-skinned compared to the rest of my mother's side of the family, and the men in my family are very big, burly men, and the women tend to look young for our age. Example, I still get mistaken for a teenager even though I'm almost 30. This event happened roughly 2 to 3 years ago. My family was having a party like we always did before COVID. Just a fun day of home-cooked food, music, and a piñata to beat the heck out of. 2 of my male cousins and I were tasked by our Tio to go to the store to get supplies for the barbecue. My cousins and I are very close, and even though we were all well over the age of 21 at this point, we were excited to buy whatever alcohol we wanted to drink together. It was our turn to decide. Now we're at the store goofing off trying to decipher my Tio's chicken scratch handwriting on the list he gave us when we see your typical Karen glaring at us. We figured we were being too loud, so we toned it down and decided to divide and conquer the list. She came up to me while I was looking at meat asking if I was alright and if I needed any help. I politely told her I'm fine, appreciated her offer but declined, thinking this isn't my first rodeo picking meat. She then leaned in and whispered, "Sweetheart, if you need help getting away from those men, just tell me. There is no reason to be afraid." Confused, I said, "Again, I'm fine and those men are my cousins." She gasps, "Oh, bless your heart. They brainwashed you so much you think they are family. They even ruined your beautiful skin by making you tan and getting those awful tattoos to look like one of them." She motioned to the tattoo I have on my forearm and my tan lines that showed the striking contrast between my normal light skin and my dark skin from being out in the sun. I don't burn, I bake. More confused, I put my meat in the cart and moved to get away from this crazy lady. I tell her to have a nice day and she grabs my arm and I go off as I don't like being touched, let alone grabbed. "Don't touch me, lady. Let go of me now." Surprisingly, she dropped my arm but not without dramatically saying in between sobs, "Oh God, honey, I'm so sorry. They must hurt you so much. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to grab you. I'm just trying to help." I turn to her and tell her, "Help with what exactly? Those men are my cousins, and I do not appreciate what you are insinuating about them." Shortly after my cousins came up the aisle asking if I was good to go. Before I could answer, she stumps toward them, finger waggling and yells, "You racial slur kidnapped this poor girl and brainwashed her into thinking you are related. You abused and assaulted her so much she can't bear to be touched. It's people like you that are destroying this country." "The heck is wrong with you, lady? She's our cousin, we ain't doing nothing to her." Cousin 1 said to her. "Racist twitch." Cousin 2 flirted and walked over to me making sure I was alright as she continued to scream more racial slurs at them, accusing them of buying alcohol to get me drunk so them and their cartel buddies could do something to me later. The meat butcher said he had called security and told us to go up front to get away from the Karen while he stayed in between us. Hearing this, she lunged towards the butcher, trying to keep us from leaving, yelling in the poor man's ear, "You can't let them leave. She's just a child. How dare you let them get away? You're helping them abduct an innocent little girl? Let go of me." Needless to say, the 3 of us booked ourselves to the front of the store where one security guard was waiting for us to take our statements on the situation. As I'm showing him my ID to prove that I'm indeed an adult and not a child being taken by a couple of cartel members, we hear his partner telling him over the radio to call the cops. Crazy Karen started throwing merchandise at both him and the butcher and had assaulted another Hispanic family shopping that actually had small children with them, accusing them of kidnapping them as well. Police came and we got to see them haul her off in cuffs, with her still screaming racial slurs, this time at the officer of color. We gave our statements to the officers, purchased our items and rushed back home for some much-needed family time and drinks. My cousins and family laugh about it now, but we will definitely never forget it. A little bit of backstory before we start. That happened during COVID. I'm a 16-year-old working at the grocery store Hy-Vee, and I'm brand new with everything and I'm still getting used to things there, and this will come into play later, but my mom is a probation officer with training. Anyway, let's get into the story. So I had to work my first 8-hour shift, and normally I'm friendly with customers, always making them laugh and telling jokes. So we are about 5 or 6 hours into the hell, and I was begging during that time. So I see a lady with a Karen haircut and didn't want to assume that it was one of them. Oh, was I wrong? Because of the coronavirus, we put up signs that asks customers to stay 6 feet away from each other and to let us clean the conveyor belt before they put their groceries on it. Anyway, she takes it off so the customers behind her couldn't see what it said. Then my coworker decided to step in. "Excuse me, ma'am, could you please put that back? We need that there so the customers could read and stay safe."
Fine.
She then grabbed the sign and slammed it on the edge of the conveyor belt where it was originally. After she's finished putting her groceries on the conveyor belt, she then comes to my side so I can put the bags of groceries in her cart. "Hello, ma'am. How are you today?" She doesn't respond. I continued bagging and stayed quiet the rest of the time.
Excuse me, that bag is going to break. Can you double bag it?
It was already double bagged before, but I continued to do so anyway.
You can't have that many things inside a bag or it will break. I don't want it to break on me.
It was double bagged already just so I'd be sure, and she had a cart. Also, all that was in it: flour, 2 cans of pasta sauce, and a ketchup bottle. Yes, I know, strange putting those things together, but it was the last of all the things, and I knew it would hold together because I put in a bunch of heavier things than that before, and it had never broken. She then starts taking it all out except the flour and throws the extra bag at me. And if you're wondering where the manager is at, he's helping elderly customers out to their cars.
You should know how to bag people's groceries correctly, you idiot. Where is your manager at? I want to speak to him about your rude behavior.
I'm standing there in shock looking at my coworker, and then I say, "He's out helping others." She then smacked me across the face. Here is where the mama bear comes in. Thank God she was there. My mother was at another register because family cannot come to the same register as their children are at. So my mom is in the middle of putting up her groceries when she hears her getting loud and looks over. I am not sure she saw me over there. So when she looks, she doesn't think anything of it. When she moves her cart over to her bagger, she sees me get slapped right then and there. This happens. She runs to us and screams at Karen, "Hey, put your hands behind your head and turn around." She had her gun on her at that point. She's confused but does it anyway. My mom shows her her badge, and Karen was shocked that she saw a cop there. And my mom didn't have cuffs, so she called the actual cops. And a bunch of other things happened that I can't remember, and yes, I shall be pressing charges. I guess the moral of the story is that to treat essential workers with respect. We are risking our health and safety while working during this pandemic. Long story short, I got a desktop computer for Christmas and was very excited to set it up and flex to my friends. Later we were talking and they said that they heard a rumor that in House 15, abandoned house, lived a Karen and her hex spawn. I ignored that and continued playing CSGO for the rest of the night. Later that night, I found the entitled kid looking at me through my window with his entitled mother.
"Mommy, I want to play on that computer,"
he said to her. I got scared that someone was looking at me through the window, told him no, and go away. I went to close the curtains to get them away. I woke up the next day with a million knocks on my door, and I get up and open the door and say, "Hello? Can I help you with anything?" I then realized that it was the entitled mother from yesterday.
"Yes, can my son play on your computer?"
No.
"Mom, why can't I play yet?" "Look, he's going to give it to you in a minute."
Then my mom get involved. "Hello?
Yes, my son would like to play on your son's PC.
As my son said, no.
Oh please, sharing is caring.
Yeah, it's brand new and I don't want it messed up. Then the entitled mother and kid suddenly pushed us and rushed up the stairs to grab my PC. After taking it, the grip on their hand slipped and boom, my brand new PC was destroyed.
Oops.
My mom screams, "How dare you!" Then she calls the cops. "Hi, what's going on here?" A police officer asks.
They stole my son's PC.
Mom tells him, "No, it's ours. He got it for Christmas."
Look, this is my house.
The officer says, "Yeah, I'll ask you two to leave and we will inspect the problem." After getting some information and confirming them, the officer says, "So this house belongs to this lady and Opie."
No, we left my son's PC when we were moving.
Mom shows the officer the receipt and that the PC was purchased recently, and by our own credit card no less. "Do you want to press charges?" Me and my mom actually don't wait for him to finish his sentence. And we answer, "Yes." So, several years ago, I worked as an unarmed guard for a security company that was contracted to watch over a new construction site for a large wind farm. This area was hilly, rural terrain with lots of wind. Perfect for this kind of project tour, so I was told by the many contractors on the project. It was also popular with hunters both local and not. The possibility of bullet holes in equipment being the primary concern, followed by a long-distance spy theft. The property had an old dirt road running through it that had been previously open to anyone wanting to use it. This part becomes more important later. I have been working on this site since they broke ground on construction and never had any issues until a roll of copper wire was stolen. Our company had assumed that anyone trying to do anything on the site would use the heavily improved road through the site. They were proven wrong when that spool went out of the back road. The only other access road that made up behind the property was nearly impassable for anything but four-wheel drive trucks, so it had been considered unimportant beforehand. Needless to say, we moved to 2 guards minimum overnight, one at the main entrance and one patrolling the site. The other change was that the company who owned the project decided to require every person entering the site to have a badge identifying them. Due to the popularity with hunters, it created some issues due to this road now being the smoothest and quickest way to the backside of the property. The hunters would come and go, but the people who owned cabins behind the property were more regularly seen throughout the year. It was one of these owners that became the biggest problem. He was proud to flaunt the office he had previously held and adamant that he had an easement to drive through this property to get to his. It may be different in other areas, but here an easement, ability to drive through someone else's property, is given if there is no alternative route available. With there being a road that led out to the public roads from the back of the property we were guarding, this was the case here. The company we were contracted with was actually pretty reasonable with allowing access, no money involved and just some personal information and identification. For this particular individual, that was good enough. He made a routine of speeding past the guards and refusing to stop. So a gate was installed and kept shut short of the construction crews starting and ending shifts. One of the other guards let us know that he was trying to get a ticket or get arrested so he could take the owner to court. My luck would have it that he chose one of my shifts to try to run to the gate. This shift being a midday on a Sunday, with a crew having come in for overtime to fix something in one of the nacelles, the large box behind the blades that had been flagged during testing and couldn't wait for repair. Honestly, not too sure what was going on that end. With all of that in mind, this gentleman drives up and starts yelling about accessing his property. We have his picture, so I already knew who he was. I pretended not to hear him clearly, giving me enough time to start using the gate in front of him. This is not a fancy electric gate. It is a steel kettle gate that you have to walk open and closed. As I start shutting the gate, he starts driving forward, so I stop and stand in front of his truck and let the gate swing back open. He tells me to move out of his way, to which I respond, that I know he won't risk running me over because he knows he would lose what he's trying to gain: free and unrestricted access through the property to him. Seeing that I have the advantage, he decides to try a different approach. He made a comment along the lines of just blocking the road until I let him through or call the cops. I bluffed a little in telling him about the crew working on site and said I wouldn't do anything about it, but since they were on overtime on a weekend, I wouldn't stop them from doing whatever they needed to do to be able to go home, which led to him pushing to get the police involved. Now is where we start to get into the malicious compliance. I was given explicit instructions to not call the police on him because all that was wanted was for him to come back during the week to get a pass, which I told him repeatedly to no avail. He decided to keep pushing the police getting called, which I kind of started to find funny the more he talked about it. He went from simply saying that I should call them to more in-depth pushing. He asked if we had a phone in the guard shack, which we didn't. He asked if I had a cell phone, which I lied and told him no, I didn't, which was more believable considering they hadn't gotten very popular yet. He then said he did but didn't want to call 911 since it wasn't an emergency and asked if we had a phone book. Still not sure why we had one, but it was there. He even tried to get me to call the sheriff on him off of his own phone, which I again refused. Not ready to give up, he took it upon himself to call the sheriff's department on himself. Satisfied that the police were on their way, he moved his vehicle aside and allowed me to shut the gate. It was about 30 minutes before the first deputy arrived, since it was a weekend and a remote part of the county they served. Being the security guard, they approached me first. I told him what had happened, that neither of my company nor the property owner had an issue with him or what he was doing, as he was outside the gate and not blocking anything. The officer shook his head about this guy calling them in himself and walked over to talk to the ex-elected official. It's about this time that the crew that was working came down, asked what was going on and had a quick laugh before heading back home or wherever they were staying. In all, about 5 officers responded to this call, and each one gets a laugh about getting a call like this one. It must have been a slow day for them to have so many show up for this joke call and then take another half hour to 45 minutes deciding how to handle it. In the end, they gave him his ticket for falsely reporting a crime or something along those lines, to which I hear him yelling out his window as he drives off that he got his day in court. The officers, who had yet to start leaving, laughed and said yeah, he will get his day in court, but it's not going to be the one he thinks he's getting. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.